I'm Deborah Omawale Jarman with the San Antonio African American Community Archive and Museum, known as SACAM, and I have the distinct pleasure of interviewing. Who are you?
I'm Ron Davis. I'm a PhD candidate at the University of Texas at Austin. I study under the direction of the Dr. Dinah Remy Berry, and my dissertation is on enslaved and free black cowboys in Texas.
And Ron is the modest but still proud co curator of this amazing exhibit, Black Cowboys An American Story. So I have a couple questions for you.
Sure.
You're not going to be on the hot seat.
Okay, well,
Tell us what inspired you to do this work.
you know, on the surface, it would seem like a really easy answer, right? The erasure of black cowboys. That's the surface answer. But the honest answer is that as I did my research, I got to know these men and women, and it was them that made this important for me. These people who have lived their lives and gone on to the next life, they become a part of you when you research. You get to know them. You get to feel like they are a part of you. And it was really them, like Monroe Brackens and James Cape and Sam Jones Washington and Jim Perry. These are men that I know, and it was for them that really made this exhibit important to do.
So, can you tell me a little bit about how you know them, what you learned from them,
Well,
and what you hope others will learn?
well, so my advisor, she tells us to read your sources every single day, which seems like when you're writing a dissertation, you have hundreds of sources, but you still have to read those sources every day because honestly, it's not the first time or the second time, but the 30th time that you read it, you find out something you didn't know before.
Wow.
You see something you hear something you didn't hear. And that happened with Hector Basie. As I read his story over and over and over again, I saw his struggle with like double consciousness, right? How to be black in this white world, and how do I honor the black men that I serve with without scaring white people, right? And you see that over and over again in his manuscript, but you only get there by just reading it every day. And that's how you become a part of their family. And that's how they become a part of yours, is by living with them and sleeping with them. And really getting to understand their words in a way that you can't if you just read it one time. And so that's how I got to know them. What I hope people take away is not just that these people found a way out of no way, but these people triumphed in the face of great adversity, right? When I think of Sam Jones Washington, and he says, as soon as I could sit a horse, they had me riding horses, tending horses, right? When I read that the first time, I was like, wait, my first thought was, oh, he was a cowboy since he was a kid. But as I read it more and more, I realized, wait, he didn't even have a childhood, right? Because how old do you have to be to sit on a horse, right? 5, 6? He said as soon as he could sit a horse, they had him working, tending horses. He didn't even have a childhood, right? He went straight to work. Hector Basie says as soon as he could crawl, he was working on the plantation. So their stories also allow us to see this glimpse into slavery and what it meant to be an enslaved child also. When I think of Jim Perry, right, this is after slavery. I think of his desire for promotion, right, his desire to be more, and yet because of his black face, he could not be promoted, and that was it. And he understood it, and it didn't diminish his drive. It didn't diminish the work that he did. He still worked hard, like so many black people today. We still work hard knowing that we still have to experience discrimination at every turn. And so like there's a part of me that feels that the story of Black Cowboys is both the beginning and the continuation of black life in America, right? We continue to struggle with being erased out of the things that we've accomplished, being kept from the work that we've done. And we still have to work twice as hard to do the very same thing that other people do.
Wow. So, when a child comes into the exhibit, what do you want them to take away?
That is a question that I think is of ultimate importance. For children of color, I want them to see themselves. right? That is at its most base level. When you're talking about children, you want them to see themselves. And then when you're talking about just all children in general, you want them to see an America that was not just one type of America, but a very complicated America, an America that included everybody, where that cowboys were black and they were white and they were vaqueros, and maybe there were people who became cowboys from Asia. Like there is no limit to who can be what, and that is the ultimate dream of America, right? But the people who are trying to actually make that dream happen are people of color. I have this conversation with several of my academic friends, and we constantly remind ourselves that people of color are the conscience of America. We are the ones that want America to live up to its highest ideals, which is why we are so critical when it falls short. And I don't know why I'm getting so political right now,
You're not political.
but I've come to realize that as a person of color, my goal is to see America be what it can be, and I believe that's something that my ancestors did too. And this exhibit is about honoring our ancestors and honoring the past that has made us what we are today.
So when you think of that honoring and you think of the exhibit, one word that describes how you feel right now when you think about the word in the exhibit.
Man, Deborah, I don't know. I don't know. Like one word,
One word.
one word,
One
one
word to
word
describe
to
it.
describe it. Depth.
Oh, okay.
Depth. I would say that the word to describe this exhibit is depth, because there's so many layers and levels to it, and we did that purposefully, right? So that people will come back more than once, and they could read the same, panel, but see something different from it. So I would say depth is the word.
Now I understand, because I'm a part of the steering committee, that there's so much information that didn't even get out.
Oh yes.
So is there a way that if I can find out more?
Well, one is there's nothing like good old fashioned research, but there are a number of really good books that really introduce people to particular characters that are black cowboys. So like Lorenz Katz is an excellent. Honestly, anything that he does or did is excellent work. Alwyn Barr, of African American Texans, his work is fantastic. I would just definitely look for him. I was just talking to you about Andrew Sluter and Black Cattle Ranching Frontiers. That is a phenomenal work. But Sarah Massey's work on Black Cowboys, Deborah Lyle's work on Black Cowboys, her dissertation is what inspired me to go back a little bit further
Wow.
and look at Black Cowboys in East Texas. So there are things that are out there to see and read, but those are the places where I would start.
Okay. Now I hear that the exhibit will travel. So what does that mean for you as co-curator? Do you know?
I actually didn't know that. I didn't know that the exhibit was traveling. I've heard that it could travel, but now that I know that it is traveling, I don't know what that means, actually. And I'm so new to the museum scene. To be quite honest, I'm not sure what that means. Right? I'm not sure. I think it's, I think it's a wonderful thing to bring this exhibit around the country. I can't wait to see it in places like where I'm from, Boston. I would love to see it there and to go back there and to talk about and to have these young kids that grew up like me. Of course, I didn't have cell phones when I grew up, but that grew up in a place where black people didn't ride horses, and to enlighten them on black cowboys, man, that would be a dream come true. To take this to the Northeast where so much of the immigration of black people from to the Northeast are from Georgia and places further east, South Carolina, and so that cattle ranching tradition is not something that's really a part of it.
Right.
So to be able to take it back to New England or Buffalo or New York City or Washington D.C. and Philadelphia and let them see black cowboys for themselves would be phenomenal.
All right. So one last thing. I understand that there is a story that catapulted you to going back to school once you got out of the service to even start this trek of researching black cowboys. And I really think people would be interested to hear that story. So would you like to share it?
Sure, I can do that. So, I joined the Navy in 1996, a year out of high school. Um, I went through my training, and I did. If you're in the top of your class, then you kind of get a pick of where you can go. Now, I didn't even think I was a good student when I joined the military. Right? I was told so many derogatory things, and because I was black, I couldn't be smart, couldn't be a writer,
Wow.
and in a way, the service taught me to take pride in my ability to learn. So I finished top of my class, and and so I put my request in to where I would go, and so I put my request in, and it was for a base that's now closed in Hawaii, but Barbers Point, Hawaii, and so you're in the top of the class. There's a few weeks left in your term, so to speak, and I got my orders, and they said, Aaron Davis, come on down. You're top of the class. We got you the orders to the place you want to go. It's this reconnaissance squadron, VQ3, and but they just handed me the orders, and so I look at it. I'm like, I walk out. I'm like, yes, I got the orders I wanted. I sat down, and I opened up the. It was in triplicate because they didn't really photocopy things back then. And it said VQ3, Variable Reconnaissance Squadron 3, Tinker Air Force Base, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. And I just remember thinking, what in the world am I going to do? How is there a Navy? How is there Navy in Oklahoma? There's no water. But honestly, it was the best place for me to be stationed. Oklahoma grows on you really quickly, and the black community in Oklahoma is so compassionate and so accepting of people who are not from the city. And so that's when I got off active duty and first went back to community college, right? 'Cause I'm a product of community college. I was working in. I ended up getting a job for a nonprofit organization and doing voter registration, and they sent me to. They said to me like, you need to go to Arcadia, Oklahoma, for the annual Black Rodeo that's there. And I was like, and I remember thinking like, I don't know what you mean by this Black Rodeo thing, but I'll go because because registering Black people to vote is highly important. So my mom has always been politically active, and so being responsible to my community is always something that's important. But I go out there and I'm registering voters, and sure enough, there are black people like doing barrel races, and black people roping, and like at the time I didn't know what they were doing, but I was just floored that black people could ride horses and ride horses well, because I had always thought it was a white sport. And so as I was walking around registering voters, this one man says, "Come here, son, and sit down. You look hungry and hot." And so they offered me some sweet tea, of course, and they offered me some ribs and some brisket and some beans, and I'm sitting there and I'm eating them, and we're talking and we're laughing, and they're making fun of my Boston accent, and we're having a good time, and I just finally asked them like, how long has your family been Cowboys for? And like this guy looked at me, and he said, it just looked straight into my eyes and said, since before the Civil War. And at the time, I remember thinking like, what does that mean about slavery? What does that mean about how we, this is at the time, what does that mean how we understand slavery? But I couldn't compute it. I didn't have the language without kind of further education to really consider what it would mean to have a group of African Americans tell me that their ancestors were slaves and were cowboys. Yeah, so fast forward 20 years, I'm reading the WPA narratives, and I'm reminded of that story. And so a lot of my research is dedicated to their memory, and the ancestors and that past that's been forgotten.
Wow. Okay, so I really do. This is the last one. Because you said ancestors, so when you think about your legacy, what do you want your heirs to know about Ron Davis?
Oh my gosh, what kind of question is that? I, I, what would I want my heirs to know about me? I always tried to tell the story that was not told.
Oh my gosh.
That's the thing I would like if my children were to follow in my footsteps, and they don't have to, but I would always want for them to uncover the story that's not told.
Wow. Thank you so much. I am here with the scholarly, amazing, humble Ron Davis, co-curator of Black Cowboys, An American Story. And I'm Deborah with SACAM. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Can I give you a hug?
No,
Oh,
oh my gosh.
I'm just so proud. I feel like a mom.